The gift of scrap. The orbital observation deck of Earth's Central Command offered a panoramic view of what Ambassador Korek had repeatedly called the most generous gift in galactic history. Admiral Helena Chen's expression remained carefully neutral as she watched the procession of ships limping toward Earth's orbital docks. Calling them ships was charitable. They looked more like floating junkyards. Magnificent, aren't they? Ambassador Korek's voice had the distinctive metallic resonance of all Ziraxians. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Helena had learned indicated smug satisfaction. 12 battle cruisers from the Ziraxian Third Fleet. Once, they were the pride of our armada. Your generosity overwhelms us, Ambassador, Helena replied, choosing each word with diplomatic precision. What she wanted to say would have caused an interstellar incident. 3 years of negotiations had led to this moment. Earth needed ships to defend its colonies. The Ziraxian Confederation had graciously offered their decommissioned vessels at a price that had nearly bankrupted Earth's treasury. Now, seeing the actual state of these ships, Helena understood why the Galactic Council representatives had been smirking throughout the negotiations. The lead vessel's hull was pitted with corrosion, its once sleek lines interrupted by gaping holes and exposed infrastructure. The others looked no better. Some appeared unable to maintain stable flight paths, wobbling as their damaged propulsion systems struggled. Secretary General Okafor is waiting to formally thank you, Helena said, gesturing toward the conference room. If you'll follow me. The handover ceremony was a study in humiliation disguised as diplomacy. The Ziraxians presented elaborate technical manuals, outdated by decades, while Earth officials pretended enthusiasm. Helena stood at attention behind Secretary General Okafor, watching the subtle expressions of contempt on the alien diplomats' faces. With these vessels, Korek announced, his voice broadcast across Earth's networks, humanity takes its first true step into the galactic community. We look forward to seeing what you accomplish with them. The implied message was clear: nothing. They expected nothing. 3 hours later, Helena stood in the cavernous hold of the flagship, a vessel the Ziraxians had once called the Indomitable. Its current state made the name seem like a cruel joke. Well, she asked. Chief Engineer Malik Rahman ran his hand along a section of exposed circuitry. It's exactly what we suspected, Admiral. They've deliberately sabotaged key systems, weapons, navigation, shields. They wanted to make sure we couldn't actually use these ships. But can we fix them? Malik's face broke into an unexpected grin. That's just it. They don't understand humans very well. They damaged the control interfaces, not the core systems. It's like they cut the wires to the light switch, but left the power plant intact. Helena felt the first flicker of hope. So we can repair them. Repair them. Dr. Sato, the head of xenotechnology research, emerged from behind a massive tangle of cables. Admiral, we can do much more than repair them. These ships were designed with technology we've never had access to before. The Ziraxians think they've given us useless husks, but they've actually handed us the keys to the kingdom. That evening, in a secure conference room deep within Earth's Central Command, Helena convened a meeting of Earth's top engineers, scientists, and military strategists. Project Phoenix was born. Complete radio silence about our real progress, Helena instructed. As far as the galaxy knows, we're struggling to make these ships barely operational. Meanwhile, we learn everything we can and rebuild them our way. There's something else you need to see, Dr. Sato said, activating a holographic display. We found these embedded throughout the command systems. The display showed crystalline structures, glowing with internal light. Neural interface nodes, Sato explained. The Ziraxians used them to connect their pilots directly to their ships. They damaged the calibration systems, thinking we wouldn't be able to adapt them to human neural patterns. Can we make them work for us? Helena asked. Sato's smile widened. That's the interesting part. Initial tests suggest human brains might actually be more compatible with the technology than Ziraxian ones. Our neural plasticity is significantly higher. The implications were staggering. Direct neural interfaces would allow pilots to control their ships with thought alone, faster and more intuitively than any conventional control system. They thought they were selling us garbage, Helena said, studying the neural node. Instead, they've given us exactly what we needed. The next 18 months were a carefully orchestrated performance. Whenever Ziraxian observers conducted their courtesy visits, they were shown teams of humans struggling with basic repairs. Engineers deliberately worked on superficial damage while appearing frustrated and overwhelmed. Meanwhile, in secured sections, the real work proceeded at an astonishing pace. The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Sophia Rice volunteered for the first full neural interface test. Helena watched from the observation room as Sedo's team attached the modified interface to Sophia's temples. Remember, Sedo instructed, don't try to control the system. Think of it more like a conversation. Be open to what the ship is trying to tell you. Sophia nodded, closed her eyes, and the interface activated. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then Sophia gasped, her eyes flying open, glowing with the same internal light as the neural crystals. I can feel her, Sophia whispered. The ship, she's alive. Not conscious exactly, but aware. She remembers who she was before they damaged her. Throughout the ship, systems that had been dormant for years suddenly illuminated. Displays flickered to life, and a low hum resonated through the hull as power systems engage. Impossible, Malik muttered, checking his diagnostic panel. We haven't even repaired those systems yet. Sophia smiled, her eyes still glowing. She's showing me how. The Ziraxians never understood what these ships could do because they tried to dominate them. The neural interface isn't about control. It's about partnership. Helena felt a chill run down her spine. The Ziraxians had sold them ships they thought humans could never truly master. They couldn't have made a more catastrophic miscalculation. How long until we can implement this across the fleet? She asked Sato. 6 months for the first wave of pilots. Perhaps a year until all 12 ships can be crewed. Helena nodded, watching as Sophia guided the ship's dormant systems back to life one by one. Then we have work to do. The Ziraxians expect us to spend decades just making these ships space-worthy again. She allowed herself a rare smile. I can't wait to see their faces when they realize what they've actually given us. As she spoke, the ship's engines hummed with growing power, not the wounded, struggling sound they'd made upon arrival, but something deeper, stronger, something awakening. The Phoenix Project had begun. The Phoenix rises. 3 years after the Ziraxian gift, Ambassador Korak stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital shipyard, barely concealing his amusement. Before him floated what humans had laughably termed their fleet. The ship still looked like scrap metal held together by desperation and hope. Your persistence is admirable, he told Admiral Chen, his translator giving his words a diplomatic polish that his tone lacked. Most species would have abandoned such a challenging project. Helena nodded, her face a mask of forced gratitude. We're making progress, Ambassador. 3 of the vessels can now maintain stable orbit without assistance, and we've restored basic life support to 5 others. Remarkable, Korak replied, not bothering to hide his condescension. Perhaps in another decade, you might even achieve rudimentary interplanetary travel. Helena guided him through the carefully staged tour. Engineering teams struggled with obviously primitive tools. Exposed wiring sparked dramatically. A hull breach repair failed spectacularly, resulting in a contained atmospheric leak that emergency teams rushed to address. It was a masterful performance, rehearsed to the smallest detail. The Secretary General regrets she couldn't meet with you personally, Helena said as they completed the tour. Perhaps on your next visit. Of course, Korak replied. The Ziraxian Confederation remains committed to monitoring your progress. We wouldn't want our generous gift to go to waste. As Korak's shuttle departed, Helena's communicator vibrated with a priority alert. She waited until the ambassador's ship was well beyond visual range before acknowledging it. "Chen here, Admiral," came the urgent voice of General Santos from Earth Defense Command. "We're detecting multiple unidentified vessels approaching the Io colony. They're not responding to hails, and their approach vector suggests hostile intent." Helena's mind raced. Io housed Earth's largest helium-3 mining operation, critical for the planet's energy needs. How many ships? 7. Configuration matches Correction assault cruisers. The Corrections, rivals of the Zeractions and notorious resource pirates, they had been picking off vulnerable outposts throughout the sector for years, but had never dared attack a major human installation before. Evacuation protocols underway, but estimated completion will take 4 hours. The Corrections will arrive in less than 2. Helena made her decision instantly. Implement Lazarus Protocol. Immediate launch authorization for Phoenix Squadron. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Confirmed, Admiral. Phoenix Squadron launching in 5 minutes. Deep within the derelict shipyard, hidden docking bays that had remained sealed during Korak's visit suddenly hummed with activity. The ships that emerged bore little resemblance to the rusted hulks the Zeractions had delivered. Their hulls gleamed with a midnight blue carbon nanomaterial coating that absorbed rather than reflected light. Where there had once been gaping holes and exposed infrastructure, now smooth lines and recessed weapon ports gave them the appearance of predators ready to strike. On the bridge of the flagship, renamed the Resurrection, Commander Sophia Rice sat in the neural interface chair, her mind merging seamlessly with the ship's consciousness. "Phoenix Squadron, report status," she commanded. "Phoenix 2, neural interface optimal. Phoenix 3, weapons hot. Phoenix 4, drive systems at 115% of projected capacity." 4 ships. Less than half their fleet was fully operational, but it would have to be enough. Comments jumped to EO. Standard combat spread upon arrival. The ships vanished from Earth orbit, their modified Zeraction jump drives performing far beyond their original specifications. The neural interfaces allowed human pilots to navigate the complexities of faster-than-light travel with intuitive ease, making adjustments the original Zeraction designers had never imagined possible. The Correction fleet had already begun their attack when Phoenix Squadron arrived in Io's orbit. 2 mining platforms were ablaze, and the pirates were methodically disabling the colony's defensive satellites. "Incoming unidentified vessels," announced the Correction commander's lieutenant. 4 ships, configuration unknown. "Colonial defenders?" the commander asked, unconcerned. "Negative. These came from Earth direction." But the lieutenant paused, confused. "Sir, they're generating energy signatures far beyond human technology." "Open a channel," the commander ordered. "Attention Earth vessels. This colony is now under Caraxian control. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Sophia received the transmission through her neural link, feeling the ship's indignation mirroring her own. "Resurrection to Caraxian vessels. You are attacking a sovereign human colony. You will power down your weapons and withdraw, or we will respond with appropriate force." The Correction commander's laughter echoed through the communication channel. "Your bravery is noted, humans, but futile. 7 against 4 are poor odds, even if your vessels weren't cobbled together from Zeraxian garbage." Sophia smiled, though no one could see it through the glow of the neural interface. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order." The Resurrection accelerated suddenly, its movement impossibly fluid for a ship of its size. Before the Corrections could react, it had sliced through their formation, targeting systems, identifying and exploiting weaknesses with inhuman precision. The Resurrection's weapons, originally Zeraxian designs but modified and enhanced by human engineers, fired in perfect sequence. Not the wild barrage of typical space combat, but a surgical strike that disabled the engines of 2 Correction vessels simultaneously. What just happened? The Correction commander demanded as warning systems blared across his bridge. They disabled the Vengeance, and the Marauder with a single pass, his tactical officer reported, voice trembling. "Sir, these aren't colonial defenders. I don't know what they are." The remaining Phoenix ships moved into attack formation, each selecting targets with the efficiency that only the neural interface could provide. Their movements defied conventional space combat doctrine, executing maneuvers that would have torn apart ships operated by traditional controls. In the observation center on Earth's moon, Admiral Helena Chen watched the battle through secure quantum-entangled feeds. Beside her stood a white-faced Xeraxian cultural attaché who had remained behind after Korek's departure. Those are our ships," he stammered, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "How is this possible? They were stripped of all advanced capabilities." Helena didn't look away from the display. "You gave us ships you thought were broken beyond repair. We chose to see them differently." On the screen, Phoenix 3 executed an impossible reversal, using its gravitational field manipulators. Technology the Xeraxians had considered too damaged to salvage. To catch an incoming torpedo and redirect it back toward its sender. The neural interfaces, the attaché realized, horror dawning. "You made them work with human pilots." "Not just work," Helena corrected. "Thrive. Your engineers designed them to bend ships to the will of their pilots. Ours designed them to create partnerships." The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. 2 Korexian ships were destroyed when they refused to stand down. The rest surrendered, their crews evacuated to secured holds aboard the Phoenix vessels. When Ambassador Korek's shuttle returned to Earth space, recalled by an urgent message from his attaché, he found a very different scene than the one he had left. The Phoenix squadron ships floated in perfect formation above Earth, their true nature now plain for all to see. "Admiral Chen," he sputtered when Helena met him in the diplomatic reception bay. This is a violation of our technology sharing agreement. Those ships were explicitly transferred in non-operational condition." "Ambassador," Helena replied calmly, "we have adhered precisely to the terms of our agreement. You sold us decommissioned vessels requiring significant restoration to achieve spaceworthiness. That's exactly what we've done, restored them. But the neural interfaces were damaged, yes. We repaired them. This will have serious diplomatic consequences," Korek threatened, but the effect was undermined by the tremor in his voice. Helena's expression remained placid. "I'm sure it will. Just as unsure the Galactic Council will be interested to learn that the Xeraxian Confederation deliberately sabotaged military equipment before selling it at premium prices. That violates at least 3 provisions of the Interspecies Commerce Act." Korek fell silent, his inner eyelids closing in what Helena had learned was a Xeraxian expression of defeat. "The Secretary General has authorized me to propose a renegotiation of our standing agreements," Helena continued. "Earth is prepared to consider the Xeraxian Confederation a valued trading partner, on equal terms." As Korek reluctantly followed her toward the conference room, a message from Sophia appeared on Helena's personal communicator. "The Resurrection wants to know when the rest of her sisters can come out to play. She's getting impatient." Helena suppressed a smile. The galaxy had dramatically underestimated humanity's capacity for adaptation. They had given Earth ships of rust and ruin, expecting submission and gratitude. Instead, they would face a fleet unlike any the stars had ever seen, vessels born from scrap, crewed by a species that had turned their tormentors' mockery into their greatest strength. The Phoenix had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.